You're listening to a Capital New York podcast. On today's podcast, Capital editor Josh Benson talks to New York One News political director Bob Hart about the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte.
So, can we start with Andrew Cuomo's speech? He clearly gave a convention caliber speech, even though in keeping with his New York First policy, it was at a delegation breakfast rather than part of the official agenda. Does it occur to you at all that that was something of a blown opportunity for him?
He doesn't view it as a blown opportunity. He views it as a way to show the people in New York what he's all about politically and wear his national Democratic credentials on his sleeve, at least locally, even though that's something that clearly he didn't want to do nationally, because I think he was afraid that's all people would have as a takeaway from this week, is that, Andrew Cuomo is interested in being president. Instead, he wants to show people, it's almost like an athlete having a private workout and showing people, hey, look what I can do, to the scouts. Of course, they're all local scouts who already know him, but just sort of, I think, showing off to a small group of people. I think he was afraid that had he given this speech, which was quite good, the part of it I heard, I didn't hear the entire speech, I think he was afraid that that would become the story of the day, whatever day he decided to deliver it.
Well, I love the idea that he was kind of breezing himself here, although that's almost certainly the case. I mean, when it comes time, as it inevitably will, for him to, he or his people to be having conversations with prospective donors, they'll be able to refer them to this speech and then ask them to put it up next to Martin O'Malley's, and it kind of tells the story they'll want to tell, I assume, right?
That's a great point. Exactly. In the land of YouTube and the internet and New York One taking the whole speech live, that's what they can go to. It's not about anymore someone in Ohio at the convention being impressed with him as much as, hey, we have this there. You can watch me slam dunk. It's on YouTube, and go from there and not have to risk people saying, wow, he's really gunning for being president, which is what would have happened had he spoken on the floor at the arena sometime this week. That's what everyone would have been talking about. Instead, he gave this huge, big speech to a very, relatively very small crowd, just the one delegation.
It's sort of fascinating to me that the idea that it took a trip to Charlotte to liberate him to give a big Democratic, explicitly Democratic speech. I mean, this was clearly different fare than what he's usually delivering at home. Or how different did it sound to you?
It's interesting because his father, Mario Cuomo, didn't seem to have that problem talking the big D game even up in Albany, the big Democrat. And this is the one argument I sometimes hear is, hey, well, maybe it's because he's sort of quietly playing footsie with the state Senate Republicans like Dean Skelos and others and doesn't want to alienate them. Well, his father did the same thing with Warren Anderson, a Republican who ran the state Senate. They got along very well, very quietly, and the thought was that Mario Cuomo always liked having a Republican running the state Senate because it gave him a foil, and there's a lot of thought that may be the case with Andrew the son. But I don't see there being a real downside for talking up the big Democratic things in Albany while also making alliances with Republicans. I think really the reason why he doesn't do it in Albany is that's all we'd ever talk about in the media. If he were to come out and say, let's talk about the woman's right to choose nationally and why I'm upset about Mitt Romney, that would blow away everything else he's trying to do in Albany because that would be the focus. I mean, when Bloomberg does it or any mayor does it, that becomes the focus out of New York City, and it certainly would become the focus out of Albany.
Oh, I think that's right. I mean, I never figured the reason he wasn't acting more Democratic was for fear of offending Dean Skelos or anything. It's clearly about packaging, and you mentioned his dad. I think there's something to the idea, and he's hinted at this, that he never wanted to be put in the same liberal box as his father. He sees his way forward. This is obviously somewhat speculative because he's not talking about it yet. But he sees his way forward as something more like Bill Clinton's than Mario Cuomo's.
The other thing we're really hearing about here, I've been hearing from New York Democrats and just Democrats in general, is that there's a fear of Hillary Clinton in 2016. That a lot of people think that she's either running or thinking seriously about running, and should she do that, that blows up everyone else's plans. Now, that's sort of what happened in 2008, so I'm a little bit like, well, that sounds great, and I would be afraid of Hillary Clinton if I were a Democratic governor from another state, or even New York, in Andrew Cuomo's case. But I don't think it necessarily would keep me from running. I mean, you look at people in 1992, people thought, oh, it would be insane to run for president because you have a wildly popular, in 1991 anyways, incumbent with George Bush. The same thing is, I think, I guess it would be more on the New York front, and I understand that. If you're Kirsten Gillibrand, and there's been a heck of a lot of talk about her possibly in 2016. She spoke to the Iowa delegates today, and of course Andrew Cuomo. I guess they would be frozen out. But if I were Martin O'Malley or someone else out there, I don't think I would necessarily say, forget it. I'm hearing that rumblings that Hillary may run. And also, she would be about 69 years old, which is still younger than, say, Ronald Reagan in 1980 when he ran. It's still getting up there. And also, there's a lot of sexism. So I think that voters are sometimes more tolerant of an older man than of an older woman. But I mean, this is all, this is all, like I say, like Superman fighting Batman. It's all speculative, but I just want to let you know what some of the buzz is going on here. And there's certainly a lot of buzz talking about that there could be a Hillary in 2016 moment again.
Right. Well, I mean, she's never going to be lacking buzz, right? I presume that storyline, that Superman storyline, is going to be alive until the moment she decides to kill it. And that's not subject to any amount of finessing by any of the other prospective candidates, presumably including Andrew Cuomo. If she decided she wanted to do it, it would change the game, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, to me it's also kind of wild because I was going through my mind, when was the last time Hillary Clinton wasn't at a Democratic National Convention? Because she certainly was there in 2008 and 2004 and 2000, 96, 92. In 88, I'm sure, when her husband introduced in a notoriously bad speech in 1988 in Atlanta. Maybe 1984. It's got to be weird for her that she's touring Asia as Secretary of State rather than being at this rallying point and seeing her husband sort of knock it out of the park last night in a very powerful speech that, to my taste, was a tad long, but maybe that's because I was standing up in the skybox and not watching it on television, and I need to watch the speech again. But it still was quite a powerful speech. It's got to be a little weird for her to be jetting all around the world and far from one of the biggest Democratic confab in 4 years.
Well, talk about someone who doesn't want to subject herself to whatever ridiculous Superman, Batman storylines we can come up with. I mean, that certainly, I should say, was a consideration for Andrew Cuomo, but I think that applies severalfold to Hillary Clinton, who's had about enough of that, and again doesn't exactly need to be doing anything to stoke speculation about what her intentions are, right?
I mean, that's the wild thing is that should the president get reelected, she's already said, she's on the record saying, I'm out of here next January, either way. So that's the other speculation is, does she mean what she says if he's reelected? And then what does she do after that? If she is really entertaining these ideas, the whole apparatus would basically be handed to her by old hands, people like Harold Ickes and others, and probably some new hands that we haven't even been talking about, new hands who are currently working with the administration, who probably are thinking about their next political job, and hers would definitely be on there. But should she not do that, and we'll hear a lot about that, is what would she want to do to stay relevant? Or maybe she has decided truly that this is it, that I don't want to be jetting around the world. I don't want to be running for president again. 2008 was a grueling experience for her, and she'll be 8 years older from that experience. Maybe she really will throw in the towel. I mean, it's funny because this is what everyone hates about the media, what we're doing, but it's fun, which is talking about next year's Super Bowl when this year's Super Bowl, is 2 months away.
Right. Well, and she also knows and loathes it enough that it's going to happen no matter what. There's no denial she could offer that would put it to rest. Essentially, it has to be past the point of possibility that she's going to run before anyone's going to take her absolutely at her word. That's just
right, and that brings us back to the Governor Cuomo and your original question, which is why the heck did he just speak to the New York delegation and not speak to some other delegation? Or the national thing is he knows that the monster is out of the box, That's all we speculate about now in the media is what is he up to, what is he thinking about 2016. Now, is the interesting thing, though, that I've been hearing from people is there's a lot of almost resignation with some of these activists who aren't working with Hillary that, hey, we think she's going to run, and hey, this kills our dream. And I don't know. You know, it's funny. I didn't think she was going to run in 99 and 2000 when she ran in 2000. Well, obviously in 2000 I did, but you just don't know. And so you and I could stand here or sit here and definitively pound the table and say there's no way she's doing it, and she could surprise us all. The Clinton family has been filled with political surprises over the last 25 years or so, and this could be just another one on the horizon. Though I would love to know, is she watching these proceedings? I assume that she watched her husband's speech, if not live, on delay, and I'm sure she's going to be watching the president's speech tonight.
Well, so even as we engage in this reckless speculation, that's the kind of thing that makes everyone hate the media. You wrote in one of these great dispatches on NewYork1.com about how the media was contributing to the caricature of itself down in Charlotte, basically pillaging the Whole Foods. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
It's like, you know, if I lived in rural North Carolina and I had a cartoonish vision of what reporters and TV producers are like, it would all be confirmed this week. Just walking around the streets, no one is looking up. Everyone's on their BlackBerries. Everyone's on their cell phone. They have, you know, festooned with credentials, have grab bags running around. I mean, if you saw it in a movie, you'd say it's an exaggeration, but it really is true. And then there's these crazy booths in the media center that are just, you know, where you can get a massage, or there's a Pinkberry. I mean, there's just things that if you ever want to see a cultural divide between national reporters and the rest of the country, and then write an angry screed somewhere, probably for the National Review, this would be the place. It's just, you know, I'm as guilty as anyone. I have my Italian mineral water, and you know, getting my whey powder, and going to the gym, and the whole thing is just, you know, it's just laughable.
I don't know how you can live with yourself.
It's hard, and the thing is, it's one thing when it's just yourself, and it's another when it's magnified 100-fold, and you just see all these people running around. And I have, the one thing I'll give myself credit for is I have been saying please and thank you to every sort of official person with a badge or a volunteer, so that they can say hopefully at least one person was polite to them, not yelling at them, and something else. I mean, that's the other thing here is there's so many police and volunteers who have never been in Charlotte before that it's almost better as if you asked me directions how to get to somewhere than to ask them. And it's not their fault. They're there to you know, be a warm body and, you know, make sure someone isn't up to no good, or, you know, someone has fallen down and can't get up. But it's just the blind leading the blind here, which was also the case in Tampa.
Well, Ben Smith wrote this kind of fantastically meta story for BuzzFeed about the BuzzFeed party in Tampa, and basically about how these conventions for the media are just a place to fly the flag and present themselves in large part to other media. If that's the case, is that enough? Do the conventions serve a purpose anymore?
It really is almost like a giant, he's absolutely right, it's like a giant media and also technology trade show. I'm seeing things that, I think I wrote about this, like you expect someone to be able to go back in time and speak to virtual presidents. It's ridiculous. You're seeing people do things that can't be done. We have our crazy DeGero gizmo running around with us, which basically is a satellite or microwave truck in a little suitcase. So you can be, as long as the airwaves aren't filled with other microwave signals, but you can be live on TV from anywhere. So we were able to take Governor Cuomo live from that. I mean, it's ridiculously easy when it works. How that things works, and that's like that everywhere. People are. I almost feel like, you know, stuff is instantaneously being broadcast into people's heads. When I was on a press van, I just got a live chatter from people of stuff coming over their Twitter, and I was just overwhelmed. I mean, it's just. I mean, people have been saying this for the last several years, but there's such an information overload coming out of here that it's very hard. If I was on the other side of things, trying to get a unified narrative, I think I would pull the remnants of my hair out. It's just amazing how many different people are out there tweeting, live blogging, you know, all this other stuff that that I think sometimes, like, how can someone's speech actually get communicated out to the people at home.
All right, we'll hold it together a little longer. You're at the end of the marathon.
Thanks very much, Josh, and we'll see you on the other side.